Welcome back to our cybernetic communism conversations. I'm Yohanan Ben Zion, a voice crying out in the wilderness, crying out for a technological New Jerusalem. Emphasis on the technological. There is no utopian outcome that revolves around a lot of religious business, and I only use this kind of language in hopes of perhaps speaking to people in a way that they will understand. This conversation is going to be a bit of a departure from the cybernetic communist perspective, and I would like to assure you that my mere saying of these words is not an endorsement of all of these ideas, and nor would be you're watching this video. This idea was one that I discussed with a number of people, including a friend of mine named Eri, who's the founder of this group and a person who has done something I think rather unique in advanced computing thinking, helped to transform that away from highly Eurocentric phenomena. There is very, very little that we would associate with the Anglophone world or the West to do with cybernetics or AI that is not incredibly elitist, imperialistic, generally bourgeois. But Eri is somebody who has fought to see that it is less so. And I thank you for that, and I thank you for letting me post opinions of this kind, generally more to do with anarcho-syndicalist stratagem toward the cybernetic communist outcome, the so-called people's superintelligence built by an open source large language model workforce multiplier at some scale. This conversation was born out of a few things. One is an idea that a large number of people, in the, say, many millions, would have to participate in this open source large language model work group as workforce multiplier, the people's superintelligence, for it to become a truly transformative thing. But my thinking was, what if we don't have time left before runaway overheating in 2029 to build a thing of that scope and magnitude that is entirely possible? What would be a kind of philosophy that a smaller number of human beings, but becoming vocal and organized, might tend to have the effect of not entirely reversing the effects of, but stopping the capitalist climate apocalypse enough that billions, if not all of humankind, will not die, and a fate that is assured after 2029, according to every credible climate scientist, if we do not transform the industrial bases, particularly of the United States and of the Western powers, most notably abolishing the military-industrial complexes of those, and radically transforming to the point of near abolition the petroleum industries and livestock industries of those. And this conversation was also born out of an interest in something actually a little more to do generally with advanced computing philosophy than this essay will tend to be, and that is, if you know me personally, or if you've watched some number of my video lectures, you know that I engage with quite a lot in years past, and still to a fairly high degree, the practice called lucid dreaming. as an organizational and workflow tool. And so a lucid dream uh, that I had led me to write this essay, which is less to do with cybernetic communism and more to do with this principle of the socio-political force multiplier that I mentioned a moment ago. Um, and um, well, I'll had one or two other things I wanted to say, but I think I will get to the heart of this matter without further ado. This is a conversation more focused on a biorevolution from a Marxist and also anarcho-syndicalist perspective, and seeing all of this as a path to two most important outcomes that are not apt to be reached on the current trajectory: a livable world and the achievement of radical life extension, which I consider to be almost one and the same with the building of the livable world. Um, the impending disaster of ecological collapse is a problem that we must address and are not addressing. And this is a testament to a destructive trajectory of specifically U.S. dominant and Western power dominant industrial capitalism. Relentless pursuit of profit, fueled by a technological paradigm divorced from human and ecological well being, has brought us now to the precipice of disaster. As you know, after 2029, we are the walking dead because of this capitalist climate apocalypse, runaway overheating effect. Critics of technology, such as those focused on anti-cybernetics and technophobia, do rightly question the systems and faith in technological solutions that underpin them. And they often fail to distinguish between the inherently exploitative nature of capitalist technology and the potential for technology to serve humanity. And so that brings us to the idea that biomedicine is the only suitable use of technology. Uniquely positioned within this landscape of technological development, this field of biomedicine offers a pathway to a livable world and radical life extension, but only if it is liberated from the shackles of financial capital and empire and placed firmly in the hands of the working class. Guided by these fundamentally Marxist positions, but a departure from my usual focus on the cybernetic communist outcome. And so this biorevolution draws inspiration from aspects that I would consider to be more in the realm of reaction, such as anarcho-primitivist thought, and but it is in service to this conversation about a need for ecological stability, and so a conversation where we consider the wholesale rejection of industrial technology, instead focusing human efforts on simplicity, but also on this one area that I would consider to be acceptable, advancing biomedicine in service to human resilience. This is the sanest area of technological development capable of healing the wounds inflicted by industrial technology. I've read a lot of works to do with post-Marxist thought or neo-Marxist thought in the last few years, and I'm reading one such work called Heroes, Mass Murder, and Suicide by Berardi. That's a book that I've nearly finished now, but I still have a little more reading there to do. I read about 3 works of political philosophy a week, long form works, and um, this um, 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 uh, uh, this brought to mind some of this thinking about this world where we accept in super polluting industrial technology as essential to our life, um, and the capitalist world generally as forms of psychopathy. So I thought I would change gears a little bit from my usual work, and with the understanding, as I said, that I am a cybernetic communist, and that this is merely a one-off musing on another set of subjects. Um, Anti-cybernetics and technophobia have emerged as critical responses to the pervasive influence of cybernetics, the science of control and communication of a bourgeois kind on human society. Thinkers like Herbert Marcuse, in his critique of A One-Dimensional Man, warned against the totalizing nature of technological rationality, which reduces human life to a series of inputs and outputs, optimizing for efficiency at the expense of freedom and autonomy. Technophobia, often expressed in more visceral terms, reflects a deep-seated fear of technology's potential to dehumanize and destroy. A notorious personality, correctly viewed as an anti-civilization criminal, even by Marxist Theodore Kaczynski, tapped into this fear, and quite effectively so, and not without good reason, aside from the reaction at the heart of much of his work that I spoke of before. But he did articulate a radical critique of this industrial society, which should not be ignored, and its devastating impact on the natural world. And these critiques, while tending to be misguided in the hands of crypto fascists, highlight a crucial point. Technology is not neutral, as bourgeois technologists will often state or imply. Its development and deployment are shaped by social relations of production, and in this world that I sometimes somewhat reductively refer to as a CIA-run world, this world where the bourgeois forces of financial capital and empire are so dominant, um, um, this technology serves almost exclusively to reinforce the power of an omnicidal ruling class, maximizing profit at the expense of not merely human dignity or human life or even human survival, but sanity itself, regardless of the consequences for any of us, all of us, or multicellular life. Uh, this extinction level event that is being brought about by the 20th and 21st century bourgeoisie. The rise of cybernetics in the mid 20th century had a promise of automating away human labor and creating a perfectly controlled society, but this field is generally referred to as cybernetics, but it should be correctly referred to as bourgeois cybernetics. And it's, of course, being captured by financial capital and empire, it failed to do this. And thus, while it created in many an idea of a utopian possibility, what it really has brought about is decidedly dystopian world. Anti-cybernetics, as described here, challenges this utopian vision arguing that the application of cybernetic principles to human society has led us to these risks that I've described and to alienation, bourgeois social control, and the erosion of human agency. Technophobia, as discussed here, and in its other forms, has expressed something more like a rejection of this bourgeois technological future, often rooted in a romanticized vision of a pre-industrial past. And I should say, just as the cybernetic communist strategy that I described as a people's superintelligence, an open source large language model workgroup as workforce multiplier, or some such phenomena, is a is a path away from the current path of advanced computing as the highest and most pressing of existential risks, other than the co-occurring capitalist climate apocalypse. There should be no conversation about these problems that only focus on bourgeois ideology and reaction, because that does a real disservice to thinking people. Cybernetic communism is the the antidote to all of this, but we do have this ticking time bomb that we are all sitting on of the capitalist climate apocalypse. And at the risk of repeating myself, we only have 4 years left before that time bomb explodes, and we are all effectively the Walking Dead. And so it behooves us to consider strategies even further afield that might require less of a large-scale movement, say this anti-cybernetics movement, than the realization of effectively full communism, a thing that's not been done before, would stating that only that would be the thing that would avoid the human extinction. Both anti-cybernetics and technophobia, with their blanket rejection of technology, do tend to throw out the baby that is human life spans trebling or more in recent centuries, out with the bathwater, the problems of an inequitable and unsustainable world. But consider that you cannot really state unequivocally that this is throwing out the baby with the bathwater when we are sitting on that ticking time bomb, because very soon it may very well be that all culture and all of human endeavor and everything that has ever existed will be as if it had never happened at all, because humans will become extinct after runaway overheating from the capitalist climate apocalypse. So it is a correct critique of this technophobic line of thought, even with these some of the caveats that I've offered, that they fail to recognize the potential for technology when truly divorced from the influence of financial capital and empire to genuinely serve human needs. However, it is a good idea to discuss biomedicine, a beacon of hope in a technological dark age. Biomedicine stands apart from the vast majority of technological advancements under financial capitalism and empire. While other technologies are primarily driven by profit motives, biomedicine can, in many contexts, unfortunately not in the United States, tend to be divorced from that, and has as often as not been, and thus is a thing more truly concerned with human well-being. And so from the practical and helpful uses of gene therapy and personalized medicine in those kind of contexts to advancements in regenerative medicine and anti-aging research. Advanced biomedicine does at present offer the potential to alleviate suffering, extend human life, and even eventually achieve this thing, longevity escape velocity, living longer than the disease and decrepitude which has throughout your life sought to destroy you, outpacing that because of advanced biomedicine. Unlike the technologies of mass destruction, surveillance, or planned obsolescence, even bourgeois biomedicine does offer a compelling vision of technology in service to humanity, a vision that aligns with the fundamental principles of human liberation. And this is why reactionaries like transhumanists, as they're tending to be understood, I think of myself as a transhumanist, but I have not met transhumanists who I think fulfill those conditions. That is why these kinds of people will tend to focus on this particular area of advanced biomedicine because it can be something um, that is kept separate from the real focus of their work, which is upholding the omnicidal regime of Western technologism in service to financial capital and empire. But when they state it in terms of advanced biomedicine, it can some of that can tend to be waved away by that mere reframing. These are pretty bad people, transhumanists, and all of the TESCREAL people. This term coined by a few serious thinkers, including Timnit Gebru, who I rather admire and have had some limited conversations with. It is crucial to recognize that even advanced biomedicine is not immune to the corrupting influence of capitalism, as I have just stated quite unequivocally. The pharmaceutical industry, driven by the pursuit of profit in the US and increasingly in the other European powers, often prioritizes development of expensive drugs for chronic conditions over cures. In recent days, China has developed better and better treatments to the point of having cures for diabetes. These things are not developed and will not tend to be distributed by this for-profit biomedical complex of the U.S. And all of this is part and parcel to a system of healthcare in the U.S. that kills 100,000 people a year in this coronavirus era that we still live in, because not only because of the coronavirus, but specifically because of a system that we could call for-profit death care that prioritizes the pursuit of filthy lucre over the true operations of medicine, taking care of one another. And this problem can easily be fixed. The Soviet Union had built a single-payer public health service that was highly functional, literally a century ago at this point, and thus doubled the life expectancy of the people there through that and a few other factors in only a quarter of a century at that time. But the West, with its anti-communism and with its imperial and financial capital mandates, has done quite the opposite of this, and this should be, in your mind, reason enough to reject the Western technologist and all of this tech apologism. I don't feel bad doing this kind of conversation that is not so specific to cybernetic communism, because these things are that problematic, and these issues must be addressed in this time frame of 4 years before, what is left after 2029 to humankind. Not a utopian outcome, not a revolutionary cause, not organizing to any end. What remains at that point is something more like the actions of the individualist, like a Luigi Mangione, um, getting revenge on the killers of Earth, because there's little else to be done at that point to create a livable world. Let's avoid that by building a livable world now. Harmony with nature and the quest for the longevity escape velocity for the masses. The pursuit of radical life extension, while correctly viewed as a quixotic fantasy in decades past, has become realizable and is now linked to the question of humanity's relationship with nature. In my view, and I don't think that's controversial, from this survey of serious thinkers, scientific communists, and the aforementioned post-Marxists and neo-Marxists that I've read. A truly sustainable future requires a fundamental shift away from the exploitative practices of this industrial civilization and toward a harmonious coexistence with the natural world. This necessitates a rejection of the capitalist logic of endless growth and an embrace of an ecocentric and eco-communalistic worldview that recognizes the intrinsic value of all living things. And so, anarcho-primitivist thinkers, while often criticized for their rejection of all technology, do rightly prioritize ending this destructive impact of Western-dominated industry and advanced technology on the environment. However, a return to the pre-agricultural lifestyle is not eminently feasible if you want to continue to have longer lifespans, nor desirable for the vast majority of humanity. And so, we must find a way to integrate the advancements of things like advanced biomedicine with a deep respect for the natural world and for the working person, creating a symbiotic relationship with benefits for both humanity and for other multicellular life forms, our ecosystem, as we often use as shorthand to refer to that. Biomedicine, when guided by ethical and ecological principles, can play a crucial role in achieving this harmony. Regenerative medicine, for example, offers a potential to heal injuries and diseases without the need for organ transplants, reducing our reliance on animal products and minimizing the environmental impact of medical procedures. Just as I mentioned, the importance of this achievement of state socialists in the 20th century of doubling life expectancy because of building single-payer public health services and prioritizing the health and safety of the masses generally. We cannot jettison this expectation of an 80-year lifespan by completely rejecting industrialization. However, it is of interest that in this field of citizen science-driven advanced biomedicine, many of the concerns for a person living closer to the land, living, say, only as a society 35 years as opposed to 95 years, could be mediated by this very principle of things like regenerative medicine. So if a person has an expectation of indefinite lifespan living in this anti-civilizational framework, that is a pretty good case, in my opinion, for something like this over other bourgeois forms. Furthermore, advances in biotechnology can be used to develop sustainable energy resources in certain frameworks, creating biodegradable materials and remediating environmental damage. this should not be dismissed out of hand, but of course, it's a little difficult to conceive of um, um, in without a longer conversation about this industrial and anti-industrial forms in reality. But the quest for uh, universal super longevity, this term that I coined to describe radical life extension for the masses, achieved through this force multiplier of a thing being AI powered, a thing being specifically a single payer public health service in every land devoted to that outcome of universal super longevity. This is not something that technologists generally have a serious conversation about, even though many of them can talk at great length about the advanced biomedicine itself, because they do not prioritize the actual human beings concerned by building socialized forms and similarly humane forms. Their work is for naught. I have not met people in this world of life extension who I consider to be serious people because of that essential failing. And I met a few of them, and I've certainly familiarized myself with the work of most of them that are public facing. Um, and but radical life extension should be viewed as an important and powerful motivator for developing this livable world, this so-called anti-industrial, environmentally friendly set of frameworks and technologies. Anarcho-primitivism, anti-civilization thought do offer some critiques of interest as it relates to industrial society, highlighting, among these other things that I've discussed, as well, an alienation, of course, the focus on the environmental destruction, and the socially unfeasible forms that are inherent to the capitalistic and imperialistic capitalistic dominion. These perspectives, often advocating for complete rejection of technology, can be seen as reaction to a specific form that technology has taken under capitalism. But as I often say, it may be that tech could be something better than what it is, but for all intents and purposes, as far as the U.S. Dominion is concerned, tech should be viewed as a shortened form of techno-fascism. And so this thing that we acutely refer to as Silicon Valley is really nothing more than an extension of the pentagram, the omnicidal Pentagon, this military industrial complex that is the world's worst polluter. Of course, much worse than merely being the world's worst polluter, even as bad as that is, because its only real job on the world stage is protecting all of the other demonic super polluters, creating an inescapable regime of super pollution that we must destroy if humanity is to survive. Job one is ending the United States military industrial complex. It is the linchpin of all that threatens us. And so, those more serious minded of our anti civilization comrades remind us that technology is not inherently good or bad, but rather is unfortunately a bourgeois weapon that has been wielded against us. And so the challenge lies in creating a society in which technology is developed and deployed in ways that truly serve the needs of all humanity and respect the integrity of the natural world, while rejecting the wholesale rejection of technology or even advanced technology advocated by some anarcho-primitivists. This conversation recognizes the validity of their critique of industrial civilization. Ted Kaczynski was a pretty bad person, not because he took up arms against the United States, but because of the reaction in his work. Um, in fact, this taking up arms against the United States by the masses is, I believe, the only thing that could lead to a livable world for us in this 4-year time frame. So let's not be confused about that. We have to do things very much like what Mr. Kaczynski or Mr. Mangione have done, but has to be done not by individualists, not by people who are themselves creatures of bourgeois ideology, but it must be done by scientific communists in great number if we are to see the survival of our species. Um, our system is clearly then unsustainable and will inevitably lead to ecological collapse, even if something like the bourgeois AI takeoff is able to transform it. In recent days and weeks, the current U.S. President, Donald Trump, has stated, and I believe that that statement is in bad faith, but nevertheless has stated that he will have the U.S. military industrial complex and has taken actions, while not consistent with that goal generally, certainly suggestive that he might make some moves toward doing that. While I am disgusted by the actions that are effectively firing workers and creating more instability for the working class, from the point of view of the continuation of human life, there is no project more important than the fracturing right now of the evil empire of the United States. Avoiding the capitalist climate apocalypse through this biorevolution. The climate crisis is a direct consequence of the capitalist system's insatiable hunger for profit, the burning of fossil fuels and the deforestation, the overproduction of consumer goods. All of this have led to the accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, leading to this phenomena of runaway overheating by or around 2029, and the dooming of humanity, all of the devastating effects we're already seeing in this world. There are already many, many, many tens of millions of climate refugees and many millions dead because specifically of the capitalist climate apocalypse, and that is your future as well. It has been said that of ecological disaster, that this will present itself to you in the form of cell phone videos of someone's home being destroyed, more and more so until you are the person holding the cell phone of the home that's being destroyed. At that point, we can say we have reached this point of no return, runaway overheating from the capitalist climate apocalypse, where planet Earth will be, for all intents and purposes, not in every chemical aspect, but for all intents and purposes, will have been converted from a planet like planet Earth as we know it to a planet more like the planet Venus. A horrible, horrible place that cannot sustain multicellular life. So capitalism is the culprit here. It's incapable of addressing this crisis. It has caused all of these problems, and the focus on filthy lucre rather than sustainability and dignity of the worker is the essential problem. So the only way to ever build anything along the lines of the cybernetic communist project or this more anti-civilizational strain that I focused on today is to organize and fight for the abolition of private wealth. Nothing else will serve there. The only way to avoid this impending climate catastrophe is to dismantle all of the capitalist systems in every land and replace them with the equitable and sustainable mode of production, namely that of the springboard to full communism in our time, the people's superintelligence, the open source, sustainable open source large language model being used as a workforce multiplier, the massification of advanced computing, leading in short order, when done properly, to these utopian outcomes, such as universal super longevity and many, many other things well beyond this that we have not yet anticipated in the vein of full communism. Biomedicine, though, is our focus here, and we can liberate it from the straits of capital by developing more environmentally friendly technologies and implementing these, promoting sustainable agricultural practices, implementing these immediately, advanced research in renewable energy. Breakthroughs have been made in even in recent days in this area. Biomedicine world can help us transition to a post-carbon economy. There is no conversation about doing that without that, as I've said, mandate to eliminate the military-industrial complex of the United States, first and foremost, and the near abolition of fossil fuels and livestock systems to the point where they would not cause, or in the way that they would not cause, supply chain collapses leading to millions of deaths, which is to say we could abolish 95% of both of those without doing so almost immediately. And any person telling you otherwise is a person who has chosen mass suicide or mass murder over sanity. The focus on human health and well-being inherent in this biomedical focus can help us shift society's priorities away from material consumption and toward a more holistic understanding of human flourishing. But again, none of this can be done without this militant insurrection against the fascistic United States and its odious Western allies. I will end our conversation now because I do have some other things to do before the end of business today. But I would also like to continue what I said at the top of the show in the vein of this line of thought and how it emerged. I mentioned lucid dreaming. So this essay was a product of these two things. A lucid dream of mine. I don't know if you can tell, but I'd only just woken up when I read this. So it's a collaboration between this kind of unconscious set of processes and this collaboration between my unconscious and conscious in this world of lucid dreaming, and also a collaboration between an open source large language model who generated many of the nodes here that would allow me to do this without really writing an essay that would have otherwise taken weeks, or even being as awake as I would have had to be to do that. The reason that I bring this up is that this relates as much to advanced computing as anything I've said thus far, which is that the integration of these two, the use of advanced computing in our lives, and this working of the unconscious, this is a thing that could become a commonplace in the next few years in a much more dramatic way than those two mere things existing. That's to say, we have the technological capability now to use non-invasive, just putting on, no different than putting on a hat, brain-computer interfaces to integrate some kind of work product, socialistic hopefully, work product into the world of sleep. And that world of brain-computer interfaces generally is something that has always been of real interest to me, and I hope that we will be able to better understand this thing. But like um, this field of brain-computer interface, generally as it has a potential to create a technologically mediated hive mind. I'm a hive mind collectivist, but I understand that people, even ardent scientific socialists and scientific communists, rather despise that change in human beings' way of life that is likely by the existence of such advanced brain-computer interfaces and superintelligent forms more generally. I understand the fear there. I understand it. And that kind of fear also is almost certainly to be associated with this hybrid form of lucid dreaming and brain computer interface technology, a thing which a few years ago a person would have said that's impossible. I had this conversation with somebody saying, what do you think? Do you think it'll be possible to put on non-invasive brain-computer interface and thus interface with your unconscious mind in the sleeping world and create some kind of work product while you slumber? And a person said to me, a person who has had a deep understanding and still has a deep understanding of both of those fields, all of those fields, Sip, and you're nuts, you're a psychopath, please stop talking. And now I've basically been validated because this sleep labs have done precisely that in the very limited way, but it's a proof of concept there. So I just wanted to make mention of this dream system as a thing of real interest to me, even though that's really just more postscript. The artificial intelligence singularity is nigh, and wonders to behold beyond imagining. And on that fateful day you will rise, and all humankind will become as one. For you see, my beloved comrade, very soon techno-communism will win. Thank you.